All right. Welcome back to Misery Point Radio. We're back talking with Steve Fournier from Janitors of Chaos. Only this time now, we're going to talk about his other projects, Fever 103, and of course, the tasty tidbit that is the Loverboy Save the Day story. Sadly, I can't play pre-recorded music of his bands performing those songs as there are some legal licensing issues, but I promise I will provide you some links on the Facebook page. So, let's go ahead, dig into this, and welcome back my friend Steve Fournier. Here we go. All right, so we're back with Steve here. So we've talked about your current project, one of your current projects with the Janitors of Chaos, and super awesome band, really technical, really melodic, amazing. You guys definitely check out the album on CD Baby, and the final press is probably coming out here pretty soon, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So you can also get it on iTunes. I saw because I was on iTunes earlier today, and it's up there as well. So,
Nice.
yeah. So now let's talk about something else, because this to me. This blew my fucking mind. So I connect back with Steve again on the Book of Faces, and I see this page come up, and I'm like, it's for Fever 103, and it's like, oh, it's like this Foreigner tribute band, and I'm like, okay, cool. You know, Steve's always liked a variety of stuff, so I'm thinking, all right, well, Steve plays drums and everything, and then so I write this comment on their page, and then I see this picture, and there's another drummer on there, and I'm like, wait a second. You have two fucking drummers? And they're like, no, Steve sings. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? And I'm like, no, let's be honest, Steve, you weren't the most socially outgoing person, right? So in school, you had your group of friends, but you weren't the guy that I would picture going out there singing on stage. And I never heard you sing. And so
No.
when I heard it, and I mean, when we went to the show, I was like, I got to check this out. And then, you know, there were some clips you guys posted, and I'm like, this is blowing my fucking mind. So number one is, when did you actually start singing? Number two is, when did people know that you started singing? And then number three, how the fuck did you learn to sing like that? Because this dude can hit these notes, and I'm not even joking. It's crazy.
Well, that kind of goes back to this one, and that goes back to my brother,
Right?
because you know
Right.
we used to hear him. You come over, my brother's hitting all that Journey,
Oh,
all
yeah.
that stuff, and we're like, you know, at one point in time, I'm like, I would stop playing my drums because here I am beating the crap on my drums, playing Slayer and all that,
Right.
and my brother's in the room next door to me,
Doing like
and
Journey
he's
tunes.
yeah, he's doing
and,
Journey. He's just hitting all these crazy high notes, and all. I'm like, wow, it's you know, just blowing my mind. So a little bit of that I kind of came down from him, you know, doing that. But what happened is when we were in high school, and how you and I obviously met through high school, we had that theory class,
Right.
and
Music appreciation or whatever the fuck
yeah,
it was called.
yeah. And remember, it was a whole year, and
Right.
they cut it down the next year. They cut it down to only like a semester of it or something like that. So,
Because they got tired of me bringing like deicide to class.
but we were all loving it, though.
Right.
We were like, yeah, that's cool, man. You know, everybody else was scared out of their, you know, wits. So I wrote this acoustic song, G, C, and D,
Right.
probably right. It was like Fly Like
Fly
an
Like
E-
an Eagle. I
Fly
remember
Like
that.
an Eagle. Remember
Yeah,
that?
I do.
And so I start singing it, wrote down the lyrics, and I got all excited, and I was like, oh man, this is cool, you know. And of course, my brother wanted to learn guitar. Um, so he brought this guitar home. That's how the whole guitar thing started. So the whole guitar thing, he said, there's too many effing strings on this guitar, you know. So I took it, and then that's, you know, shortly after, what, it was like a year or two after that. So this is like, I probably started playing guitar, like picked the guitar up when I was like maybe 13, 14 years of age. But then after that, I wrote that song. I
Right.
got an acoustic, and I wrote that, and I started singing. and then I collaborated with my brother, and then of course during the theory, I forget the teacher's name, forget his name, but brought it in.
Vicar.
That's right. Brought it in, and he was trying to do, I don't know what it was. He was trying to do like arrangements for or something like that. So that was kind of like my first original singing, and after that, singing for me was um when I was in memoriam, with Caleb
With Caleb,
and
yeah.
those guys. Lee bought, the bass player had a huge PA, and we used to play at this place called NAF Studios, which is off West Marginal in Seattle, West Seattle area. And I'd go down there before everybody, or just on a weekend. I would just like put my, take a mic, and I'd just start singing like what my brother was used to
Like
sing.
in front of people, or just to yourself?
Just myself.
Yeah.
Just a journey, and like exactly what my brother used to do. And so my first introduction to playing out live and hearing, people hearing me actually sing was behind the drums. So I was in this cover band with Dave. I don't know if you remember Dave Hawkins at all. Old friend of mine that used to do jam, open mic jam down into Kingston. And so here's a funny one for you. Okay, so this is my introduction to the singing of playing in an actual cover band. So we started doing Man in the Box by Alice in Chains. And I'm just screwing around. And so I start singing it, and we're playing it. And Dave turns to me and he goes, "Wow, dude, you should do that song. It sounds really good." I'm like, "Are you out of your head?" I'm like, I'm not gonna sing this. I was like, "I can't do this." He's like, "No, dude, really, it actually sounds really good when you sing it." And that's just a bunch of screaming,
Right.
at some point. I mean, don't, he's an awesome
Love
singer.
Alice in Chains, absolutely.
Oh yeah, he's an amazing singer.
A really big range and big control over his voice.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. So I just remember that vaguely of me doing that on some shows we did. And so the singing thing didn't really, I never took it seriously. I was just like, it was just kind of like, yeah, I like doing it. It's kind of like like one of those inside passion things you have. And you're just like, I didn't really take it seriously. But when a mic or a PA was around or something, I would plug in, some tunes, and I'd sing along. And I didn't really think that, oh, hey, I have like this good voice or whatever. I just was like, okay, I guess it's fun, it's cool, it's something to do. So I got in all these other cover bands, and then the one song I had to sing, I didn't have to. I did Bruno Mars' "Locked Out in Heaven." I drummed and sang that song, and that was really hard for me to like literally try to like even sing, let alone try to play drums. And I got a lot of good responses. And then we started fitting a couple of the Foreigner songs in there, "Cold as Ice" and "Feels Like the First Time." So here I am playing drums and singing these songs, and I got a lot more comfortable playing drums and singing.
Like, Don Henley and Phil Collins.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Exciter.
Yeah, there you go. Exciter, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, the Foreigner thing, the Fever 103, kind of came about where I'd already been singing a lot of between Journey and doing some of the Foreigner stuff. I didn't do a lot of huge catalog by Foreigner at that time. I think I did a lot of, like, a few of the hits, like "Cold as Ice." I knew that. "Feels Like the First Time." I did "Long Way from Home." So I just started singing in my room at the school, and I got, I have a little Mackie in there, and then Wendy bought a 58 because we were in a band for a short spell. We had a cover band thing going with a few friends, and Eric played bass, of course, and we all sang in that band.
You've known Eric for a while, huh?
I've known Eric for a long time. Yeah, I've known.
This is Eric Close from
Eric Close,
Fever 103
originally,
and Coven, of course. One
yeah,
of my favorites.
and he was in a band called For Love of Suffering back in the day, in the mid '90s, when I was in Faustus.
Right.
So I replaced it.
Faustus.
Kirk O'Malley, our last drummer, and then Joey Hammersmith was the original guy. Awesome band. Good times with those guys. Um, so, but going back to the whole singing thing is, yeah, I just started kind of, you know, kicking around the idea. I was like, oh, I'm starting to sing a lot more, and I'm really digging this Foreigner stuff. And so I just started kicking around the idea, and I did it for almost a year straight. I started singing more and more
I mean, just
Foreigner.
like practicing yourself
Yeah,
and
I would just sing every day. Yeah, I just start singing every day. I had no idea what I was even doing. Technically, if I was doing something wrong, whatever. So I basically started, and then of course the faculty that works there, they'd pass through and like, wow, man, you sound like wow, I'm hearing you singing that every day. It's like, man, you sound really good, man, on that stuff. It sounds killer when you're singing it. And some of the people at the school would be like, man, you sound just like Lou Graham. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So, um, I just kicked around the idea and I was like, you know what? I think I want to do this, but I want to really do this, uh, all the way, but I
yeah, do it
don't,
right.
yeah, I want to do it right, but I don't want to, I don't want to play drums and sing. Obviously, I want to actually be a lead singer in a band.
Well, and especially the amount of energy it takes to hit some of those notes and the amount of energy it takes to do full percussion. I mean, that would be rough.
I've done it before and it's a challenge. But the drums have to take a back seat since I played drums longer than I've been singing, obviously.
Right.
This was a natural thing that I already had built in. So the drums weren't necessarily a big challenge. The challenge for me was trying to learn how to do the breathing and be able to like actually build up the tolerance to be able to actually pull out whatever song I was singing at the time. So when I did start Fever 103, of course I didn't drum, but there was occasions where I had to do rehearsals where Daryl, my drummer, would not show up or couldn't show up for that rehearsal. So we had a rehearsal scheduled. I'd get behind the drums just to keep time, and we'd do
Just
the
play some
rehearsal.
basic beats and
Yeah, I do the songs because I already knew the songs. I knew most of the songs, and I should have known by then. I mean, I more than anybody in that band, I think I've listened to those songs more than anybody. I had to get inside Lou Graham's head. I had to literally do whatever research, and then of course, at that time, I really wanted to make sure that I was, let's say, um, not hurting technically, not hurting my throat, not my placements and blah 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 and all that stuff. So I actually took a couple of vocal lessons with Pamela Moore that used to sing with
yeah,
Queensryche.
Queensryche, yeah.
Yeah, and Pamela,
Sister Mary.
yeah, she's a sweetheart. When I first came to her, she helped me out a lot, and she was pleasantly surprised. She
And
was
she's
like,
based out of Seattle still, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. She is down in Kent. She lives in Kent. She has a place right there, right outside her house that they let her do vocal lessons. She also does stuff in on the east side.
Right.
And she heard me sing this stuff and she was like, wow. She was like, you sound so good with this stuff. It's crazy. Um and then of course the second time I went back to her, she's like, uh, that's just crazy. I did the exercises. I did what you asked me to do. I did these. So I did all these vocal exercises every day. I sang like I must have been singing at the time. I was probably doing at least a good 12, 13 Foreigner songs. So it took me,
Daily.
yeah, almost daily.
Damn.
So it took me a long time to build up the uh, the ability to do those tunes. Yeah, very hard.
Yeah,
Very.
so I was not only was I impressed, I was just shocked. Like generally like the first notes out of your mouth at that show, I was like, he's fucking pulling this off. This is absolutely crazy. Not that I didn't have faith in you, but it came so out of right field for me to see you
Oh yeah.
singing on a stage versus behind a kit, you know?
Yeah.
So so Fever 103, if you guys get a chance, check it out because not only can Steve sing like a fucking champ, I got to tell you, the saxophone chick, ugh,
Delina Thrift.
so Urgent is fucking spot on. I mean, everything, the whole band, super talented, and everything fits perfectly. And I mean, there's cover bands, and there's tribute bands, and you guys are like right there on the cusp of practically being indistinguishable from the musicianship side. I mean, it's nailed to the T.
It's funny because when you guys were there, that was our very first.
That was the first show.
That was the first show, and the band has grown so much, as you know.
And there's different people in it now.
Yeah,
too.
there's one. We ended up replacing one member of the band, and we got JC, Johnny Cat from Whiskey that I play in Whiskey River with. Him and Tommy had already been playing
Whiskey
together.
River's like a Skinner.
Leonard Skinner tribute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so it was easy because him and Tommy had already been working together. Tommy being the other guitar player in Whiskey. There's 3 guitar players. There's Eric Anderson too, I want to mention as well in that band. But those 2 guys have been working together for 5.5+ years or so. So it made pretty good sense for us to kind of bring him in. JC's a good guitar player. It seemed to be a better fit since the band has obviously played, quite a few more shows since then, since you guys have seen us.
Right.
So the band has grown and it's gotten a lot tighter. Even for me being an actual lead singer, a front man for the band, it's still kind of a work in progress for me. But a lot of that, even the band itself, a lot of people are like, well, you kind of never done this before. This has never been like, you've never really been an actual singer, a lead singer in a band. Are you gonna, some people were asking me that, are you going to be able to do that?
Yeah, it's one thing to sing, but it's another thing is like, are you going to have the presence? Are you going to know what to do without having drumsticks in your... I actually kind of pictured you. I was like, I wonder if he's going to bring a drumstick up and just to have something in his hands because of you get used to something. Like if you see guitarists that sing, but like, let's say like, for instance, remember when Hetfield broke his arm and he couldn't play guitar? And you're like, what the hell is Hetfield going to do without his guitar in his hand? And he rocked it. And of course you look very natural up there. So it wasn't an issue.
That's one thing I was not going to do. I was not going to go up there and just be this little karaoke or stand in one place corner kind of, scaredy cat. You have to put on a show.
Right.
And I did as what I could do. I did as much research as I possibly can on just watching Lou, watching, people that are influenced, grew up with, you and I grew up with, all kinds of bands and stuff like that. So that's what I kind of did. But you either, as a singer, it's like that with vocals too, to some degree. You either can sing or you can't, or you cannot, or it's also that with having stage presence. You either have it or you don't. And it's unfortunate. I've been behind a lot of singers in bands. They either have it or they don't. So I got the full eye view of that happening, and it's that one thing, it's like I get that even from like a lot of people. It's like even Bill, Micah that plays bass in Whiskey, he's 63. He's been around forever. Lots of experiences and lots of stories.
He could have been in Skinner.
He's an amazing musician, but also...
And Whiskey River, by the way, also phenomenally amazing sounding band. And, that just looks like a fun band to jam in. Like if you want to go hang out with a bunch of dudes and just have like a band that is just super like fun, that's how I picture Whiskey River.
It's one reason why I ended up wanting that gig when they auditioned and
you drum in.
Yeah,
whiskey
drumming
related.
that with drumming that band. And yeah, I've known Tommy Steinley for quite a few years. Him and I were in Made in Seattle back in the day, the Iron Maiden tribute band.
Love Made in Seattle
Um,
and the Iron Maidens.
Really, yeah, phenomenal, lots of fun, and he brought my name up to the guys in whiskey, and that was the whole reason why I ended up basically. But I did my homework. I laid the ground. I had to, just like every other musician. You do your homework. You get prepared. You go in for
Sure.
the audition. Yeah, everybody had reservations over the whole thing, I think, at some point. But Tommy was like, "No,
Just knowing
this
your
is
background and
this is the
stuff like that.
guy. This is the guy that will, So I mean, you're looking at like a what it is about a couple of weeks. I learned about 3 sets of material.
Yeah, and not only do you have to know the songs, get to learn the songs, but you have to fit in. You have to click with the people, because everybody, when you're playing a show, you have to trust that everybody's going to play their part. Because as I've been there, unfortunately, when bad things happen, one person throwing something out of whack, whether or not it's bad timing or hitting a bad note, one time isn't a big deal. But if somebody's
Yeah.
not on their game, I mean, that's it. I mean, and people, if they know the shit, especially if you're playing somebody else's songs and they know the songs,
Oh
something
yeah.
goes wrong, oh man, they'll pull you apart in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you could be your own worst critic yourself, but
Right.
if things go sideways, I mean, our last show, Fever 103, we did Tulalip, and that was a real big show for us because over the whole Loverboy thing, we had a pretty packed house for
Right.
that gig. A lot of people were coming out to obviously see me, because of that whole stint, and we really plugged that show hard, but we unfortunately didn't have you know our drummer at that gig. We had to use thankfully, um, he came in too. We used a fill-in guy, which was the original guy um, that I had in the band prior, Kevin Whistler. And Kevin Whistler plays for a band called Bloodgood. I don't know if you remember
Yeah,
Bloodgood
I
back in
do
the
know
day.
Bloodgood. They were like one of the original Christian rock
You
bands.
got it, yeah. And
Um,
I think you had a couple of
yeah,
couple
I
of
had a
their
couple
stuff.
theirs, and then when we went in the studio back at that time, our producer was the guy that produced the last Bloodgood album at that time.
There you go.
So there was Bloodgood. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this is crazy.
So
Yeah.
Kevin Whistler filled in, and he did a really good job considering it all one rehearsal with us. There were some pretty bad dropouts and little things, but obviously from the audience point of view, we got a really great feedback. A lot of people didn't really uh, notice a lot of the kinks
But
that
when you're
we.
used to something being a certain way day in, day out, you rehearse it,
Yeah, it was a really bad. It was kind of a bad gig for me.
because you take a cue, right? You get used to hearing certain things, and it affects your timing. And I'm going to
Yeah,
come in on this, or there's a certain element of you're relying on consistency in a pattern. Even if there's improvisation, you're used to a certain structure being in place, and if that's not the same, then it'll throw off your timing and your rhythm and your cues, and it's can be disastrous.
it's that too. It's the gel of the band, and not just people knowing their parts, but you get used to it now since I've been out in the front being a singer, um, as opposed to playing the drums. And I'm pretty meticulous when it comes to even the drums, as far as that goes, because with Daryl, I worked with Daryl a bunch as far as, like, okay, don't, play this triplet, do this, do 4 on 4, it wasn't like I was telling him how to play the songs. Daryl's a great drummer. You know, he's just one of those guys I think was just listening to the tunes day in and day out. He probably went through them, at maybe a short a few times. I really don't know how other, how he approached when he learned and auditioned for us at the time. But for me, when I audition for a band, I actually sit down with the songs, and I'll, if I have to chart things out, I'll do that.
Yeah, I'm a mapper.
You
I
know,
like to map shit out.
yeah. Or I just go over it with a fine tooth comb, and I play 'em and play and play and play until I get it as close to the album, if not exactly. So that's the whole reason, that I'm that same way. And I'm kind of that way with vocals too.
Mhm.
I don't want to just do this half-assed. I don't say, let's, put together a band and, yeah, Foreigner sounds great. Let's just throw it together. And that's why I don't get with a lot of tribute acts. They go, let's start a Tom Petty tribute band, just so to speak, let's learn a bunch of Tom Petty stuff and then let's go out and do it, and they don't put the groundwork in, legitimately. It's like there's more to it than just that,
Right.
and putting together a band, by the way, this was the first thing I've ever put together in my life, being a leader of the band, calling some shots and doing all that stuff, thinking about the business aspect of this. It's really tough.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, yeah, it's been a long, hard road. Let me put it to you that way. A lot of stress, a tremendous amount of stress.
Well, and Fever's a fairly large band. I mean, how many? There's like 7 people
There's
in the
7
band.
people in
Yeah.
the band. We added Delina in the band about she's been in the band for at least over a year and a half or something like that. When we got her in the band, that was a big, huge added plus.
Oh man. I mean, she's awesome.
She not only because she's one of the backup singers in Whiskey
Mm-hmm.
with Tara. So we already knew that she had a voice. She can sing backups. So that was a major, major add to the
That
band.
sax though, dude.
And and she's beautiful. She's awesome. And she's just like one of the dudes, man. She just gels with everybody. She's got a great personality. So it made total sense to get her in the band.
I think the thing that Marsha, my wife, and I were talking about though is that's an element that you don't really see. I mean, you got your typical rock band is like, hey, you got your guitar, you got your drums, you got your bass, you got your singer, you got your 4 or 5 piece, and then keyboards, not so much a thing as often anymore, and they're definitely like horns and different percussion. So when you hear somebody on like a sax or on some kind of like a something like that, that's a different element that really kind of helps things stand out.
Mhm.
And it's another dimension. And she's kind of like a jack of all trades. Like
She's our secret weapon.
Yeah, there you go. She does multiple. So she's got the sax thing going on. She fills in, like, does some keyboard stuff, does some backup vocals. All of you guys in that band, it seemed like there's a lot going on. But it's dialed in. I mean, it seems very seamless. But when those sax parts come up, you can look out in the crowd and people are losing their shit. I mean, people are just going crazy over that stuff.
I mean, and that's one thing even for me, I've not just you don't study it, but you just kind of you just know as a front man for a band. I've seen so many of like that type of thing where singers are just they want the whole entire limelight on the light on them, so to speak, throughout the whole entire time.
Fever is definitely ensemble.
And yeah, so when the guitar solos come out, I will back up. Those guys, it's the lights on them. That's their time. As well as when Delina comes out for Urgent and does her solos, I want her to come out in the front. I want her to rock it. And I'll come back here, whether I grab a tambourine or I just stand back and clap and get people going. Keep
grab your cowbell.
Grab the cowbell, man. And there you go. I mean, that's I've learned a lot from just being in a band, just in general. It's like things you don't do. There's things you do, and there's things you don't do, and there's lessons you have to learn. And you make mistakes, and you're only human. I mean, all these experiences musically I've had, that it's just that's what's kind of made me who I am as far as a musician goes. But it works really well with these bands that I'm in. I mean, But that's bottom line when you're actually literally, even on the road and touring, you're living with that person almost 24 hours a day.
Right.
So it's a completely different ball game altogether, man. It's not about you being an awesome, great musician. It's about you being a good person and a laid back person. You're easy to deal with. You're not, there's no attitude and there's no ego and there's no, you know, huge amount of head problems and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So anyway.
So coming up next, we're going to take one quick break. And then coming up next, we're going to talk about what's on everybody's mind right now, which
Uh-oh.
is the Loverboy. So we'll be right back. All right. So now we're going to talk about the big deal. So kind of like in Arnel Pineda's story almost. So some dude randomly gets this amazing opportunity. But so I'm going to let you kind of tell this story. But we've all probably heard the story of a random fan who gets up to go sing for a major band. And this actually happened to Steve here recently, and it was quite the big deal in our area. So why don't you tell us the story of how the Loverboy thing came to be?
Well, just before I do this and tell this story, there's been recent concerts, so to speak, that somebody had said Sammy Hagar, when he came here with his band, he had a, you know, he had a really high fever, fever of
103.
103.
Boom, boom, folks will be here all week.
Doom. And couldn't sing. So the crowd was participating in the whole songs. Robin Zander from Cheap Trick was out of town for a personal family thing, couldn't make it. So here, thousands of fans, they basically didn't get anybody up on stage, not in the same respect of what happened at the Loverboy show. So going to the Loverboy show, what happened is that, Survivor opened the show, and here, we're hearing Survivor. Eric and I were like, okay, they started, and I think they, what was the other hit that they had? I'm On to You or something like that. Or no, that was actually another band, but, they start playing, and this young kid singing on stage with them. This kid probably couldn't have been no more than like 30 years old. I mean, he wasn't even around,
Right.
when these guys were at the height of their career, so they get off, and, Eric and I were actually going to get a beer during their set time, because a lot of the catalog, I didn't really know a lot of Survivor stuff. So we're like, oh, okay, cool. We'll go hang out. We'll go in the line.
It's called the inebriation stage.
Yeah, exactly. So we're in line, and it's funny because this one random guy comes up, and he goes, "Hey man, you're the singer for Fever 103, right?" And I was like, yeah, this is my bass player, Eric, who plays it. Oh man, yeah, I saw you guys at the show or whatever. He's like, man, phenomenal, man. This is great. It was great, and he plays in this punk tribute band or whatever. And we just, I think I gave him a card. I don't know. I had some cards with me. Anyways, we get a beer. Then we go, we're in the 8th row on the floor. Awesome actual seats. And Dean and Stacy, Dean from Coven, him and his wife
Dean Babbitt.
Yeah, Dean Babbitt. They're right across from us, between the aisleways. So they're literally right there. So we're on the end. And then Colin Matson, that used to play for Forced Entry, that pushed me up on stage.
Man.
Him and Tina, his fiance, are in the 7th row, and they're down a little bit left of us, And I didn't really know where Colin and Tina were sitting at the time. So, anyways, Loverboy comes out. Mike Reno walks out. They do Notorious. And I'm sitting there rocking out. I'm going, yeah, I'm like singing. I because that's what I do anyways when you're going to do the concert. I'm start singing all the lyrics and stuff. and I'm rocking out, and Eric and we had a beer in our hand, and Reno, after they get done with that song, you could tell Reno was, a little rough on the vocals. He goes, "Yeah, well, I have to be honest with you guys. I ended up catching the flu. He goes, don't fly on planes. You end up, with sick people." He kind of cracked a joke about it. And he goes, "So I'll see if how the night goes or whatever." So he was good for like 2 more songs. And the last song he sang was insane, like crazy, stupid high stuff. And out of all the songs he had to pick, he picked the song "Queen of the Broken Hearts." And I was like, "Whoa, dude." And you could tell it was just not working. It's like, I was like, he was just, he's just
Struggling
nothing.
through it.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And I know how that is as a vocalist. So he goes, "This is not happening. I wish a throat lozenge would fix it, but, it is what it is." So he says, do you mind if I bring a friend out?" So he brings out Catherine, which actually happens to be his wife, from what I know. And so she comes out and she goes, "Well, I'm not Mike Reno. I wish I was, uh, and then she says, music starts kind of going, keyboards are in the back, and she goes, "Maybe you guys can help me out with this next one." So that's, of course, we thought, okay, crowd participation is going. So the next thing you know, she's up there all alone, and she goes, looks out on the lights, and she goes, "Well, is there a lover boy out there, that knows the songs? It's like that, it's like that rock star, that movie. Isn't there a movie about that or something like that?" She says something to that effect, and dude, at that time, I wasn't thinking anything. So the minute she said that, Colin gets up off his seat, stands on his seat or something, and literally points down at me. "Get this guy up, get Steve up." And then, I ain't kidding you, the next thing you know, I'm getting all these people around me that I'm like, how do these people know me? I'm getting people going, "Steve, Steve." They're chanting my name. I'm like, this is not happening right now.
Crazy.
Yeah. So of course he plows through these people, knocking drinks out of their hands and yada yada. And so he grabs me by my jacket and he goes, "Dude, we gotta get you up there, man. You gotta go, dude. You gotta do it." I'm like, "All right, let's do it." So
Yeah, and I mean, what are you gonna say? No?
yeah, this lady stands in front of me, and she goes, she was kind of just protecting her own place or whatever, her spot. She goes, "Can you sing these songs?" And I said, "Yeah, I can sing them." And she goes, "Okay, well, go ahead." Gets out of the way. And we pushing through the crowd. And of course, this other guy that was 3 sheets to the wind actually got thrown off the stage, believe it or not. I didn't find this out until Tina told me about it and showed me the video of him running across the stage. It was pretty hilarious. So anyways, long and short of it, Colin here pushes me up on stage, and Catherine, off the mic goes, can you sing these songs? Do you know them?" And I go, "Yeah, I know them." And so she hands me the mic, next thing you know, I'm like, "Okay, well, let's do or die," So then they do "Turn Me Loose," and then that was kind of it. That was basically do it. And what was crazy too, like we talked about earlier, is like there was no, they don't do monitors anymore. They do all in-ear monitor systems, which makes sense for most bands doing that. So they didn't have time to throw a pack on me during that whole time of that thing. So here I am going up there practically, by braille, singing by braille, only by just hearing the music in itself. So you do what you do. You don't think about that at that point in time. You just go out there and you rock it. So
Right.
that's what that's what you want to do.
So you get up there on the stage, and I mean, was there any kind of a discussion like, "Hey, what songs do you know? What songs do you not know?"
No, "Turn Me Loose" just started playing, and that was kind of it. So when I took my jacket off in that moment, I just remember Paul Dean was kind of starting to walk to to the mic of his place, and I kind of gave him a fist bump. So in the audience's eyes, they're thinking this is staged because
Right.
there's no way. I mean, even from my point of view, this looks like it was completely staged. Like, and it wasn't, obviously, because if it was staged, nobody told me. But here I am having the balls enough to go, hey, here you go. Here's a fist bump. Here, Paul Dean. You don't even know me from Adam. Let alone you have no idea. So you can imagine what those guys are going through is like, this is either going to be horribly, this is going to go horribly wrong, or it's going to be good. And uh uh to their obviously surprise, and a lot of people's response was like, I think they were like, oh man,
Wave of
like,
relief.
wow, okay, at least he can sing, kind of thing. It's so in that moment of time, it's like, yeah, there was no sitting back and saying, okay, go off to the side stage like a game thing. Like, it's like, here's our game plan. This is what we're gonna do. No, I mean, that was like, here, dude, go ahead, and good luck. You know, that's pretty much what it really ended up entailing. And then of course, when I got off the side of the stage, Mike Reno had a friend of his from Marysville, uh, and a lot of people, I guess, from what I know, the posts and people telling me that a lot of people sat down and were booing that guy because he was singing "Hot Girls in Love," and I think Catherine was trying to ask me what else I knew, and I at that point in time I said, "Well, I kind of know these songs, blah blah blah," you know. And she's like, "Oh, okay, okay." And I told her I knew "The Kid Is Hot Tonight." And I remember her running over to Mike Reno and going, "This Kid Is Hot Tonight." And he's like, "Okay, we'll get him up after this." So that guy's out there. And Stacy Dean's wife was telling me, yeah, that guy, he just wasn't really, he wasn't that good, or whatever. He just wasn't getting the response. So somebody, some of these videos are on the Facebook, so a girl from the audience videotaped, and so did Tina, Collins' fiance, um, videotaped "The Kid Is Hot Tonight." So it was funny because the minute, it was total rock star moment, man. It was just hilarious. It was like the people were so open to it at that point, but then there was a lot of booing too, because some people left because the whole thing, the way it went down, that's understandable.
But they weren't booing you; they were booing the situation.
They were booing the situation
Because
a lot.
all the videos that I saw, people were going ape shit. Like,
it was pretty nuts. I walked out next to the bass player, like I think he was kind of worried that I was going to step on his pedals or something, because he kind of blocked me in a way,
right.
and I stood right there. So, but when I came out on "The Kid Is Hot Tonight," back, the crowd literally, yeah, you hear a real big fat cheer on the crowd, and it was like, wow, this is totally not happening right now.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy. And yeah, so I built that out a bit. I built out "Kid Is Hot Tonight." I'm trying to get the crowd into doing, obviously singing the lyrics, and getting everybody up. And then I think the did "Loving Every Minute of It," but that guy did most of the lyrics, and me and Catherine were just on the side of the stage. But she kept trying to kind of go, get out here in the front. It's like, I think I want to say it sounded like she was more favoring me in some way or another. I really don't know, than really having that other guy. But Mike was, a lot of people's points of view was like, one guy was saying it sounded like Mike was favoring that guy over kind of what you were doing. And I'm like, I don't care who was favoring who. But bottom line was, it did turn into a whole karaoke show at the end of the night. We didn't do too much after that. And then we did Working for the Weekend, and Mike, that was when we did the game plan thing. We all stopped, off the side of the stage, and Mike was like, okay, we're going to end Working for the Weekend. You'll do the first verse, chorus, and then so-and-so, the other guy, his friend will do the second one. So that's kind of how the night ended. And then of course after that, it was like all these pictures, and it was pretty funny. The monitor guy comes up to him, he goes, "Dude, before you leave, man, I got to get a picture with you." So I was like, I take the headband off, right? Kind of put it in the pocket. He goes, "Oh, what are you doing, man? You gotta put that thing back on, You gotta get the full Monty, man, out this." It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Pretty
How many songs did you end up actually doing then?
Well, I really only did those two, and then I did half the Working for the Weekend.
Hmm.
Uh, um, and then just joined in on the whole chorus parts of like loving every minute of it. But the two full songs I did by myself completely was the Turning Me Loose one that went viral, that video, and then The Kid Is Hot Tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So after that was over, what what did the band say to you? How did that end?
Well, what was funny during the side moment of time that I can remember was that the keyboard player pulls out some money out of his pocket and he goes, "Can we pay you?" And I just kind of laughed and chuckled about it. And I said, "No, man, I'm good. No, man, I think this is." I go something to the effect, this is. I go, "This is pay being up on stage with you guys. This is amazing." I said, "Thank you." They were really cool. They're really cool. Paul Dean, I didn't talk to too much. Unfortunately, I didn't get to talk to Matt, the drummer, uh, at all. I think they all kind of were really in a hurry to get the hell off the stage and go back. And I know Mike Reno wasn't feeling well at all. Uh, Catherine did. She goes, "Before you go down with your fan base." I mean, I had literally people off the side of the railing going, "Steve, Steve." It was total, like I said, rock star moment action going on.
Right.
It was pretty funny. Uh, she goes, "Before I let you out, go down there to your to your fans. Can I get your information?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I had, I think, one more Fever 103 card. And I told her I was in a Foreigner tribute band. She goes, "Oh yeah, duh." And so I handed her the card, and that was kind of it. It was kind of weird in a way because, like I said, I messaged her, found her on Facebook, and did message her and told her thanks. I wasn't really expecting anything out of it, but it would have been nice to kind of just say, have her go, "Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thank you for helping us out." But I think again that show, I think they wanted to kind of sweep things under the carpet. It, uh, it wasn't the gig they wanted to remember, so to speak. I think who knows what's going to happen, when they do play the New Year's Eve show at the Emerald Queen, if there's not necessarily going to be anything like a guest appearance, like such as myself, but if they're going to even mention anything about the last show, I think they're just going to just play the show as the show and,
Sure.
do that, because most bands at their height of their career, that's not something, it's like, here's this little guy, this little guy had his little nugget of time, it's like, that's cool and everything. And Mike Reno was very, very cool. I mean, he was, who takes their prop from the 80s off their head, the headband, and puts it right on some dude's head that has no idea if he's going to even sing these songs. Like, let alone that. I think that was a scary moment for them at that point in time because they're like thinking, "Oh man,
This dude
I
better
mean,
not fuck this up.
oh yeah." And not only that, he better not sound like a damn, whatever karaoke type singer. It was just like, you know, luckily, as luck would have it for me, that I guess the odds were in my favor that night as far as that goes. I mean, people were accepted of it to some degree. I think it was more something to witness somebody go up there from the crowd to do that. But you had both. I think the positive more outweighed the negative in the story because the
Sure.
way the story was, because 99% chance of that happening to somebody where they just get somebody randomly in the crowd, whether they're a singer or not. It doesn't matter. It's like the fact that, and, you know, that I did know the lyrics, I knew the songs, you know, that that in itself, can speak pretty high in volumes and be able to pull that off and be able to like, you know, go up there and in that moment of like being in that time, it's like, man, I hope I'm not going to get beat up or something like that, or whatever, it's like, I mean, this is after the fact. So,
Right.
but yeah, it
So
was
that's
cool.
that's crazy. So since that stuff has now been basically seen all over the place, not just locally,
Yeah.
what has the response been to you personally and to the projects that you're in? How's that affected it?
Um, it hasn't necessarily, got me worldwide status achievement of like, people wanting, calling me up for and offer me gigs or or things of that nature. Facebook blew up pretty well from the messages and stuff, and
Sure.
the reception I got from that was pretty overwhelming. Like I said, the positive outweighed the negative side of it. Um, the Herald, Tacoma Herald, or excuse me, not Tacoma Herald, the Everett Herald made me, they made me a plaque of the actual show and the two prints because it got on the front page of their paper.
Right.
But it was pretty funny because this guy calls me up out of the blue a few days after that, and he was from the, saying he was from the Everett Herald, and they wanted to do a plaque on the show, and it's a really nice plaque. It's yada yada. It's made of this type of wood. You know, you'll have your name in a plaque, and it's $189 plus tax. So I'm
Wait,
thinking
they wanted to sell it to you?
they charged me. They sent me a bill. So
Here, we made you this plaque. Here's the bill.
and he goes, check this out. He goes, well, before they sent that, this is the guy talking to me on the phone. And I said, wow, that sounds great, man. I go, yeah, okay, I'll check it out. He goes, so let us know if we'll be sending it to your house. Let us know if you like it or not. If you don't like it, you can send it back. Like, I'm gonna go, yeah, this is awful. I don't want it. So the next couple of days later or whatever, they send me a bill for $209 for the plaque. And I was like, and I talked to several, obviously, people that about them doing that. And they were like, they should not be charging you for a plaque. That's ridiculous. You're on the front page of their paper. And I'm like, whatever. It's
Well,
like,
and it's not like you placed an order for the plaque, right? It's not like you
no,
said,
no,
"Hey."
no. They offered to make me a plaque, and I could have just told the guy and said, that's really cool of you, but like, why wouldn't I accept something like that? It's
Sure.
like I'd be out of curiosity. I'd love to check it out. It's all in color, Of course, I shared that on Facebook, with everybody. I wanted to make share that piece that I got, and
Yeah, no, it's
you know,
awesome.
yeah, pretty crazy. The fact that I got such great reception on the YouTube viral thing on the Turn Me Loose, which was really neat to see especially how many views and how big it went as far as how far it went. I mean, I think it went as far as Pittsburgh, on, some lady chimed in that lives in Ohio, and she chimed in. She goes, "Man, I saw you on the news. That's just so rad. That's really cool and whatnot." So it's really neat, And then I've gotten one specific call for a local drummer that played with Paul Rogers, and he's doing a thing with Roger Fisher from Heart right now. And he said he was in the front row that night, and he goes, witnessed the whole thing. And he goes, "Dude, you actually saved the show, man." He goes, "I know the Loverboy guys. I've known those guys for years and yada yada." And he goes, "Man, you tore it up. You killed it. You did an amazing job," and blah blah blah. And he goes, "And I've heard a lot of stories about this. I've heard things like this before. He goes, you just don't know what's ever gonna happen.
Right.
It's like, there's a band, a touring band. They need a singer, yada yada." And I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be cool." I'm like, I didn't think much of it, but
And how are your peers, the guys in your bands and the gals in your bands? How are they?
well, Ron got way in the back by the bleachers, my keyboard player. And so we all met up. Finally, we all kind of clan together after the show. And Ron was just like, "Dude, what is the?" He just couldn't believe it. He was like, "Dude, you totally killed The Kid Is Hot Tonight." He goes, "That was just amazing." So it was a shock to everybody. We just
Right.
were high fiving each other at the end of the night and just going, "Wow," So we went to a bar finally up the road because they were obviously kicking everybody out by the end of the night, So, and reminiscing about the whole thing, and I ended up signing some dude's set list, their set list, and the songs I actually ended up singing or whatever,
Right.
it signed next to them and stuff like that, and got some photos with some people. It was pretty cool. It was a moment,
Yeah.
moment in time.
That's awesome. And so everybody's in your bands has been supportive of you doing that. And
Oh, it really, well, yeah. As far as that kind of rattled the cages, because that whole hype kind of got Fever 103 a lot of publicity, and that was really one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to kind of push everything the where I work, the janitors of chaos, Fever 103. I wanted to really push that out. Of course, me being a singer in that band, it was more or less geared toward that band because of I wanted to promote us as much as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So being that King Five, sits there and says, yeah, he sings for a local Foreigner tribute band, Fever 103. I mean, that really kind of got the engines fired up, so to speak. So, and some of these radio interviews I did, which was cool, plugging the band, and now finally, hopefully, got us a little bit of a kick
Yeah.
back, so to speak. We it's been really hard trying to get gigs and trying to get any agent in town trying to pick us up and trying to throw us a bone. And it's understandable, they're dealing with like so many bands. They have a big roster of bands that make them, an income for themselves, but keep them, they keep those bands working. So a lot of times they're just, I don't think it's just because they don't want to give the bands a chance, but it's the fact that they're already busy enough, they're just not sure if they really have the open door for a band such as us, but if they see a band, I mean, it's not always with agents that they see money in their eyes, sure, but they have to make an income themselves. So
Right.
you have to respect that.
It is a business.
It's a total business. And I applaud any agent in town that actually will, work and get bands consistent work. I mean, they're kind of your golden in, man. I mean, they're the ones that will keep you working. So the last thing you want to do is talk trash about any agent in town of any kind, or if somebody gets you a gig, you want to really take that and you want to treat them with respect, So the fact that, Craig, that got us, one of the gigs for next year, it was great. It's finally, we can do them right in as far as that goes. And hopefully he'll be throwing us some more stuff, in the new year. That's really what I want to do. I want to play some, I want to play as much as we can, and just have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got the new Janitor CD. Do you guys have a drop date for the physical press yet?
We don't have we're still working on that. Financial stuff has come up from kind of keeping us from trying to get that printed and trying to have the full-blown CD available.
Sure.
But as far as I know, I talked to Ethan about that, and they're still kind of in works with that. It's more now about the money aspect of it,
Sure.
and
But the full album is available on CD Baby,
Yeah.
as well as iTunes.
iTunes, yeah.
And Fever 103 and Whiskey River. Do we have any material out that people can check out as well besides going to your shows?
The only thing that you can do is you can go obviously to YouTube. There's quite a bit of video content of some of the shows we've done.
Right. It's a little different when you're playing in a tribute band because the songs are licensed by other people, so
Yeah,
there's
you can't
some legal
record.
material. Yeah,
It's funny because a lady just chimed in on Facebook friend, just a fan of the band, and she says, "Do you have anything that you can?" I said, "Yeah, with the tribute stuff, you can't really, you got to have copyright. There's copyright issues and all that stuff." So I said the best I can tell you on that one, and then of course I plugged the janitors. I said, I do play drums in this band. Check this band out. You can purchase our stuff on that CD Baby and iTunes and so on and so forth. But I told her, that's what the explanation was. Just go to YouTube. We got a promo video that we did a long time ago, but
awesome.
I really try to veer toward people checking out at least the live performances, the raw stuff that's live. A guy named Everett Rock, local Mark Tatchell, he's a great guy. He's goes around and videotapes a lot of bands, different bands and stuff. Real big supporter in the music scene in Seattle. and outside.
Awesome. So we're gonna have to wind this down here because I'm looking at the play clock and it's going crazy.
Of course.
I know, man. But so Steve Fournier, Janitors of Chaos, new album called Ether Ore, Fever 103, amazing Foreigner tribute, and of course Whiskey River. You can also catch him at the Seattle Drum School and kind of around town on the communities. Find him on all social media, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. Anything else you want to plug before we call it a night here, brother?
No, I think we covered a lot, man.
Awesome. It's been fucking awesome having you come down to the show. It's great reminiscing. If you guys could only hear some of the conversations Steve and I are having off the clock, because there's only so much time you have, but we'll have to do this again. Get some more projects going. We'll have you come back on the show.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be awesome. So we're gonna talk to Steve here again real soon. And congratulations on all your recent successes. You've worked your entire life, so by no means is this kind of an all of a sudden thing. It's been a work in progress for the 65 years old that Steve is. So.
I like to think.
All right, man. Thanks, everybody, for joining me again on The Edge. Thanks to Stephen Fournier, and we'll talk to you all very soon. Have an awesome night.
I never should have been with you. Decided to go and out of find too. With the blemishes too deep inside of me. With dependency, it's hard enough to live. But you're broken through my heart. But how'd you break my skin? You're under my skin. 'Cause I barely made it through this, and I give it all that I can. I gave it all to you. Sometimes I'll travel